Welcome to my official Premier League predictions, the first of a series for hopefully many years to come, and it all starts today with the 25-26 Premier League season. The way we're going to judge these predictions at the end of the year is based off a score. The score is made up of every position that I get wrong is a point added to the total. The aim of the game is to get the least points possible. For example, if I predict a team to finish first and they finish 20th, that would be 20 points to my total, and obviously a very bad prediction. However, we need to worry about that at the end of the season. Right now, I need to put the teams in their positions, and I need to lock in. The keen-eyed amongst you would have realised that that is the exact scoring system that Spencer FC uses in his Premier League prediction series. I think it's the best way to judge it and the most accurate, so massive shout out to him. Now let's get into the predictions. We start off rock bottom of the Premier League, and I am going Sunderland. Haven't got much to say really. They had a great promotion win in the playoffs, but the Premier League's hard for the newly promoted teams, and I just don't think they'll have enough. And unfortunately, they're going rock bottom for me. But hey, maybe they'll surprise me. In at 19th, it's another promoted team, and what can I say, guys? It's been a bit of a trend over the last few years. The teams that have come up have struggled to stay there, and I think Leeds are going right back down where they came from. Finishing 19th, not quite bottom, but I don't think they're going to challenge much on the bigger teams. Now in 18th place, I could easily go for Burnley and make it the 3 promoted teams going straight back down again, like most people in the YouTube space. However, I want to be optimistic and I want to give one of them a chance. And for me, that team is Burnley. They've brought in Kyle Walker, which is a bit of Premier League experience. They've been in the Premier League recently for a pretty long period, so they know what the Premier League is about. And maybe, just maybe, they'll have enough to stay alive. However, with them staying up in 17th, that leaves 18th position open for Wolverhampton Wanderers, who in the transfer window have lost Ryan Aït-Nouri to Man City and Matheus Cunha to Manchester United, and I think that's going to be huge for them. They had a rough season last year. They did finish very well with like one of the best runs in Europe to end the season. However, having lost their 2 best players, I think the recovery is going to be difficult. They might prove me wrong. Do I really think Wolves are going to get relegated? Maybe not, but hey, I want one of the promoted teams to stay up. So I'm choosing Burnley and I'm backing you guys, so don't let me down. Wolves 18th, Burnley 17th. In 16th, we have another team that's been absolutely torn apart in the transfer window. It is Brentford. Their coach, Thomas Frank, gone to Spurs. And Mbeumo's gone to Man United. Norgard's gone to Arsenal. Visser looks like he's on the way out as well, possibly going to Newcastle. And I think those transfers show how good a team they've been over recent years. All 3 or 4 players joining good teams. However, it's left them with a bit of a carcass of a squad. And with Frank, I might have thought he would have been able to build something and keep them alive and keep them strong. But without him, I think it's going to be difficult. Not relegation difficult, but 16th, it's going to be a bit of a fall for Brentford. They've been a bit unlucky. In 15th, we have West Ham. Now, I could have easily swapped Brentford for West Ham. In fact, I'm almost thinking about doing it right now, but I'm going to stick to my guns. West Ham 15th. I don't really rate their team highly. I think the club in general is in a bit of a mess. However, Jarrod Bowen, one of the best players in the league consistently, even though he's in a team that's struggling. Last season, he put the club on their back and ran with it, and I think he's going to do the same. He's going to, at the very least, keep them alive. And for as long as Jarrod Bowen is in your team, you're not getting relegated from the Premier League. So I think a 15th, solid enough. Not a great season, but, you know, you're in the Premier League. You can't complain. West Ham fans, though, get in the comments and let me know what you guys are feeling before this season, because I'm finding them a really hard team to judge. I don't know where they're sitting on the sort of happiness scale. What is it like being a West Ham fan these days? Let me know. At 14th, we have Fulham, and we're well and truly away from the relegation places now, and I just don't think they can really climb much higher, as the teams above them are just a little bit better than them, but they're a decent enough side. I think they'll be safe. They'll play some good football, and 14th will be a solid position for them. At 13th, we have Crystal Palace, who I actually really like. They won the FA Cup last season. They just won the Community Shield literally yesterday when I'm filming this video, and I think they're going to have a decent enough season. However, I think the decent season is going to correlate more to their European football than the Premier League. They've got a massive distraction now that they've earned, but I do think it'll have a little effect on them. So 13th, it's going to be a solid enough finish. It'll be a good 13th, though. 13th with a distraction of European trips. So it'll be just an enjoyable season for Palace. You've kept Eze, which is huge.
Arsenal have agreed a £67.5 million deal for Eberechi Eze.
I love Mateta. They've got some more good players in there as well. And I think they'll give a good crack at the Conference League or Europa League, depending on which they get in, because of all the drama going on. In 12th position, it's the first team that I'm predicting to slip down the table a little bit. It is Nottingham Forest. Now, the reason for this is not really anything in particular. I think the signings are good. They've kept Gibbs White, which is massive, and they lost Alanga, which is okay. It's not the worst ever, but a decent player. They've still got a good squad. I think Chris Wood's getting a little bit older. You never know how he's going to go. I think he'll do decently, but the return of last season is going to be hard to do again. I think their owner is very, what do you call him? I think he's mental. So I think he's a very trigger happy owner. He's a bit crazy. He's done some wild things over the last couple of years. And I think if things get difficult, he could sack the coach. You already saw at the end of last year when they were slipping a little bit, there was a lot of tension going on there. They've added in European football, which will be a massive distraction. A good distraction because you earned it, but it will have an effect on the Premier League table. So I think I'm going to finish in at 12th with Nottingham Forest. Maybe they surprise me. Maybe they climb up the table again, but I think that's where they're going to finish, in my opinion. At number 11, we have a team that I'm climbing up the table with. It's Everton. They've brought in David Moyes, who I really, really like. They've just signed Dewsbury Hall from Chelsea, who, as a Chelsea fan, I think he's a great player, a really good signing. He did well for us in the Conference League. He did well when he played. Whenever he played for us, he did well, even in the Club World Cup. But there just wasn't much space for him in the squad, so he moved on, and I think it's a really, really good signing for Everton. They finished 13th in the Premier League last year, so they actually climbed up the table really well late on, having brought in David Moyes, and I think they're going to continue up that way. I think NDI, or however you say his name in the midfield, he is an unbelievable player, and he's going to carry them that little bit more. Do they have enough firepower up front? Maybe not. But I'm predicting them to finish 11th. I'm getting confident with Everton. New stadium, new vibes, good feelings, good coach. Don't let me down. Number 10 was difficult. This is where there's so many teams that can be moved around in this position, and I'm going for Bournemouth. Now, they lost Kirkes and Huijsen, which is a big hole in their defence. However, they've got Semenyo, they've got Evan Nilsson, they've got a decent couple players in that squad. I think they're a really good team to watch. They had a good year last year. I think a lot of teams around them are going to have European football and possibly have distractions where they'll slip down the Premier League, and I think that's where Bournemouth can jump up a couple positions and just, upset the apple cart a little bit. And I think 10th is just a solid finish for them. Good, solid mid-table, near enough getting towards European football, but not quite achieving it. I think if they had kept those two defenders, it would have been amazing, but they couldn't quite do that. 9th position, and this is the first position that's going to piss off a lot of people. I'm going for Manchester United. Now, on the surface of it, they've kept Fernandes, they've signed Mbeumo and Cunha, who are great players. They've brought in Sesko, who's a great player, but okay, maybe not proven in the Premier League, but still a great signing. And you'd think, well, Tom, they've got no European football as well. Why are they not going to jump up the table? To be honest, I don't trust them. Over the last few years, there's been countless of years where they've looked decent in pre-season, then they've slipped and slipped and slipped. I don't really like Amarin that much. I do think they can climb the table, but in terms of the points and how I'm going to judge this table, I'm a lot more comfortable putting them 9th and maybe they get up to 6th or 7th rather than putting them 4th and having them finish 13th and have a massive point deduction there. So I'm playing it a little bit tactically by slotting them in at 9th, and I don't mind if they get moved up the table a bit. It's not too punishing. If they get moved down, I survive, and it's also not too punishing. So a little bit of a tactical move there. Manchester United slotting in at 9th. In at 8th, we have Brighton and Hove Albion, who I think are going to have a very decent season. They lost Joao Pedro, which, he's a great player. He's been great for them, but they always recover so well with the players they've moved out. They find another gem, and they sell him on for 60 million to Chelsea 2 years later. It's just what they do. And I think Brighton, not having European football, they'll be able to also jump up past a couple of those teams that have those distractions. And I think they'll slot into 8th, which will be a great result for them. Maybe even threatening the European places throughout the season. 7th place, and this is the one that I really am not confident with, but I'm backing myself. Spurs. They've brought in Thomas Frank, who I think is a solid manager. He hasn't had a try with a big club, which could be the only question. We've seen it go wrong before with Graham Potter at Chelsea and stuff like that. But I'm backing him. I think he's a solid manager. They brought in Kudus, who's good. They lost Son, who, to be fair, was at the end of his powers, I think, at Spurs, and he did a decent time there. And the reason they're above Manchester United and Brighton, I just think their squad is actually really good. And if it wasn't for the injuries in the past few seasons, their defense is unbelievable. Their attack's good. Madison, in fairness, is injured, which could be a big loss. But I don't know. This could be wrong. This could easily have Spurs finishing 13th or something and just continuing to be a banter club. But I think there's a bit of good feeling around Spurs at the moment, and I'm going to back them to sneak into the European places, putting them in at 7th place. I'm not sure about this one, guys. This one's got me nervous, but I'm sticking to it. Top 6 now, and I've got Newcastle in at 6th, and it's just such a weird one. They've been so good for so many years. I really like their manager. They got into the Champions League last year. They're looking really good, and then the Isak drama came in, and they've had a bit of a hell of a transfer market. They haven't lost too many players, but Isak's been moving around a bit. He doesn't train, he wants to leave. He's probably going to go. By the time of filming, he's still a Newcastle player, but don't think that'll last. And I think that just could be a negative shift in the club and a big distraction this season that I think is going to be hard to recover from. On top of that, all the replacements for Isak have been picked up by other teams in Gyökeres, Sesko, Ekitike. They've all gone to other teams in and around Newcastle. So that's going to be a really difficult situation for them to manage. However, I still think 6th is a great finish. I don't think they'll be pushing towards Champions League positions in the top 4, but 6th, I mean, as a Newcastle fan, you're playing Champions League, hopefully you reach a quarterfinal or something, and you finish 6th. I think you take that. In 5th, Aston Villa, and the best thing about Villa this season is more what hasn't happened. They haven't lost many of their big players, which apparently Emi Martinez was going to leave, and it still seems like it might leave, but for the moment he's there, so who knows. If he stays, great. You've got Ramsey in the midfield. You got Rodgers after a big season last year in the midfield. You got Watkins up front who might leave, but at the moment he's a Villa player. But I'm judging this right now, and I think they're going to finish 5th. On to the top 4, and I do think there's going to be a significant gap between 5th and 4th. These 4 teams, in my opinion, look primed for a good season, and this order could be anything. Starting off though, I've gone for Man City. Possibly unpopular. I don't think I'll be punished too badly by the points at the end of the season, because if they do get it wrong, they're going to be higher than 4th, which can only be 1 or 2 points in the negative. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm more going for my own ego. Just think Pep and Man City seem to be on a slow decline. Not a massive, fall to the ground and burn. Just a slight decline. They brought in Chekri, who looks good. They brought in Aït-Nouri, who will be good. But they've lost De Bruyne. They've lost Walker, who, were at the end of their powers, but in their prime were such big characters around Man City. And now you look at that squad, and I just don't think they've got as many massive match winners and top world-class players. So I'm possibly going to be wrong. They might win the league, but I'm predicting them to finish in 4th. In 3rd, we have my boys, Chelsea. Now this season, I'm feeling good about them. It's been a great pre-season. We've brought in good players. We've won the Club World Cup. Delap looks great. João Pedro looks great. Gittins looks decent. Estevao looks awesome. I think it'll be a great season. However, we still have Sanchez in net, who anything can happen. We just lost Colwill as well for a massive injury. I think he's done his ACL, so that's the majority of the season as well, which is really bad because he was starting to play some good football. So the defense is going to be the issue for Chelsea. However, front line and the sort of vibe of the club, they're sort of on the up, and I think they'll continue that. And I do think they could sneak into 2nd. I don't think they're going to win the Premier League. I think with your defense, you need a better goalkeeper. But I think there can be a really positive season, possibly a cup run or a Champions League run. But I'm going to slot them in at 3rd. And now on to the top 2. We're slotting in the masters of the runner-up medal, Arsenal Football Club. I'm going to cop pelters for this because everyone wants it to be Arsenal's year. I just don't think it will be. They've brought in some good signings, to be fair. They brought in what they needed to bring in. Gyökeres, a big striker that scores goals. I saw him, he scored his first goal in a friendly the other day. He just looks like a striker. It's what they needed. Do I think that'll be the difference? No. Maybe it'll be the difference in the Champions League or FA Cup and that. I just don't think they'll quite go over the line in the Premier League. Just there's something about Arteta. I don't think he's got that extra level to go and dominate the league and win the league in the important matches. I might be wrong, probably will be wrong because I've got the camera on and I'm caught in 4K, but I'm putting Arsenal in the 2nd and the memes are going to continue. And that means only one thing. The winners of the Premier League, once again, are going to be Liverpool Football Club. And this one's a bit of a weird one because if you told me before they signed all their players, I would have said Liverpool would win the Premier League. Signing the amount of players that they have, in a way, makes it harder for me to predict them because they're all great, but if it goes wrong, it can go very wrong, which is a little bit of a wary thing. They've just lost to Crystal Palace in the Community Shield, so already there's a sign of like, ooh, is this going to have a bit of wobbles? But I'm sticking with them because I think Wirtz is a great player. Ekitike looks good. They might even bring in Isak. They brought in Frimpong, who scored an amazing goal in the Community Shield. Kirkes looks good as well, so I am backing them to defend their Premier League title, and they're going to go back to back. With my predictions finished, I have also asked ChatGPT to give me their predictions, so at the end of the year, I can compare the two and see if I am better than the internet. However, I also want to judge if I'm better than you. So get in the comments, give me your predictions from 1 to 20, and the most liked prediction will be your official submission as a fan base. And at the end of the year, we can see who wins. Tom Harris Football, AI, or you. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you guys at the end of the season.